All right, all the movie lovers, all the 80s enthusiasts, welcome back to Gonzo, Mike, and a VCR. I'm Gonzo.
I'm Mike.
As usual, we're going to discuss some of the best and worst movies from the 80s, 90s, and beyond. We're we're not always going to agree, but we're going to give you our take on them, make a recommendation, and then we'll give each movie a rating. Um, so let's get started. Silence your cell phones. Is your cell phone off, Mike?
I'm off.
Yeah, mine too. All right. So um, in this episode, we are going to start with we're going to look at Full Metal Jacket, and this is directed by Stanley Kubrick. Um, he produced also and co-wrote the screenplay for this. This is a 1987 film based on Gustav Hasford's 1979 autobiographical novel called The Short Timers. Have you ever read it, Mike?
I have not.
Neither have I. Neither have I. So maybe we need to read it. So now, Mike, I'm looking this movie up a little bit. The theatrical release poster for this film stated, uh, in it's got like a picture of the helmet that says "Born to Kill," and it says in Vietnam the wind doesn't blow. It sucks. So take from that what you want.
Mhm.
Uh, this thing did about 120 million at the box office. And it was nominated for an Academy Award for the Best Adapted or Adopted Screenplay. Um, and Lee Ermey, who we're going to talk about, was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture. So now, also, this is big, Mike. In 2001, the American Film Institute, I'm sure you've heard of them, right?
Oh yeah.
They had made the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Thrills, this sort of poll, a list of movies. And this movie, Full Metal Jacket, was 95. So they're calling it in their top 100 movies there. So that's pretty special. And this also was a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm going to explain the plot real quick, Mike, since this is one of my picks. I'm proud of it. I'm going to explain it quickly for those who haven't seen it. It's a pretty simple plot. So this takes place probably, I'm thinking, about 1966. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. So starts with just some guys going through boot camp on Parris Island, South Carolina, for the United States Marine Corps. You know anything about that, Mike?
I know a little bit about
He
that.
knows a little bit about that. And it just goes through these guys going through training, and their drill instructor, who is just, he's a tough guy, but that's what's expected to get people ready for war. And um, there's one guy in the platoon, and we'll get to talking about, who is struggling. He's a weaker person. He's a little bit slow, maybe, and he's out of shape coming in, and he ends up just struggling. And our main character, who's going through there, we'll talk about Private Joker there as well. Our main character sort of is put in charge by the drill instructor, to, hey, you got to take care of this guy, make him good. So the guy keeps screwing up. He ends up getting a blanket party, right? And we'll talk about what that is and everything for those who don't know. And so he gets beat up by the rest of his platoon, and then he turns into a real squared away soldier, but he's talking to his weapon. And Joker, the guy who's sort of supposed to watch out for him, sort of thinks he's losing a little bit. And at the end, he somehow got some live rounds, and he's in the bathroom, and he's making a big bunch of noise, and the drill instructor comes in. Private Joker's there. He's on fire guard, and he shoots the drill instructor, and we'll talk about that scene here. But and then that part of the movie, the basic training part, just ends right there. And they got through basic training, and then it's almost like a whole nother movie, Mike. That then we get into the part, suddenly Private Joker is in Vietnam, and with a new group. He's a reporter for the Stars and Stripes magazine, and he gets into all sorts of situations. Goes to see his buddy Cowboy, which is a buddy he was in basic training with in Paris Island, who's just in the infantry, right? And he hangs out with that unit as they're going through some fighting in the city, and end up getting sort of lost a little bit, separated. And then that squad gets pinned down by a sniper. There's a couple guys die, and then they go get some payback, right? And in the end of the movie, Private Joker, Private Rafterman, who we'll talk about, Private Joker sneaks up on this sniper just about to shoot, but he gets a jam in his weapon, and so the sniper's going to turn around and kill him. And Rafterman, his little buddy there, it comes in the other doorway and just zips up the body of this person with his weapon. And so the snipers land, and they're like, okay, we got the sniper, we got our payback, let's get out of here. And Joker says, well, we can't do this, man. This person is still alive, this sniper. And the rest of the squad's like, dude, we're leaving. Like, and he said, well, we got to do something. And Joker's like, well, we can't just leave a person here. And then they're like, well, if you want to finish it, finish it. And we got some really, really, really crazy music going there. And he's got to make the decision what he's going to do. And he goes ahead and takes that life. So, and then that's sort of the end of the movie there. So, anything to add to that, Mike?
No, I think you got it all. And the biggest thing you said, I totally agree with. Anybody who's seen this, it's like two different movies. I mean, you could watch the first half, you could watch the second half almost in isolation and not really lose anything.
Yeah, it's crazy because like first time I saw it, I'm almost waiting after Gomer Pyle shoots himself. I'm waiting for credits to roll.
Hmm.
And then I look down when I rewatched this for this thing. I look down. I'm like, it's only been 45 minutes. It seemed like it was a 2 hour movie already.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's so intense.
it is. It is. So there we go. So first take. I'm assuming we have to ask this question every time. Had you seen this movie before you watched it to prepare for this?
Sure, and I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, but I looked at Marine movies of this era, like the '80s, maybe late '70s, as training films. Before I went to Paris Island, I was like, I understood boot camp. I don't care what branch you're in. It's a mind game. It's physical, but it's going to be more psychological than anything. Unless you're in bad shape when you go, then it's probably going to be just awful in both respects. But I must have watched that first half, the boot camp scene, uh, 5 to 10 times, and I definitely watched the whole movie.
Yeah. And this is interesting. I look at the year this came out, 87. This is the year before I joined the army. So I watched this movie and I'm like, same thing as you. Like, I'm prepared. Like, oh, okay, this is like what's going to be like. One thing about that you said about being a mind game. There's one guy who was my squad leader in basic training in the army down in Fort Benning, Georgia, and his name was Doug, I believe. But he was saying like, sometimes we're checking in, you have a minute of downtime, you're making your cot or something, and you see a guy's got a look on your face, say, you good, man? And I said that to him once because he had a strange look on his face, and he was like, oh yeah. He's like, this isn't even as bad as they hazed us in my frat. he
Mhm.
he was squad leader because he came in with an E3 because he had like 2 years of college credits or something. They did that back then.
Yeah.
So he didn't come in as an E1 like me, right? So, but yeah, this was the year before I joined the army. So my first take on the movie, I'm going to start here. It is raw. It is gritty. I think it shows the callousness of life. Just
Mhm.
how rough and bottom line is like you got to care for yourself, man, because no one else really cares about you. Everyone's busy worrying about themselves, trying to get through things in life, especially in this high stress situation that is basic training or boot camp. So, and like I said, like you said, this is the third time we're saying it already. This could be two damn movies, right? So,
Mhm.
what's your first take on it, Mike?
Yeah, it motivated me in terms of, like I said, I kind of watched it for a purpose. I was like, okay, this is a Marine movie. I'm going to Paris Island. Uh, like Marines know, we only have two boot camps, Paris Island being the original one. So the first take, I loved it, and anybody that's not interested in going in the military, has never thought about it, would watch that movie and say, that motivated you? Like that would keep me from going. But I think those that are motivated to go in the Marines, and I'm sure the Army too, you're looking for something challenging. You're looking for something that not just anybody off the street could get through. And so when I'm watching this, uh, I definitely saw a lot of the things at boot camp I saw in this movie, but because it was a different era and they were sending people directly to war, I'm not going to lie, some of the things were not as intense as in the movie, but I have no doubt they were just as intense if you were getting ready to ship off to Vietnam.
Sure, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear you. So let's talk about our main characters here. Now, you never need to know that his name is James T. Davis. You just need to know that this is Private Joker. This is played by Matthew Modine. How do you think Matthew Modine did in this movie as Private Joker?
I thought he was awesome. I almost felt like his role was almost to be the audience. He was civilized society, and because people were being drafted back then, I'm pretty sure Joker did not volunteer to go in the Marine Corps. He was probably before that first day of boot camp was over. He was thinking, well, if I was going to be drafted, I probably should have gone in the Air Force.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and it doesn't the book Short Timers might make it clear, so maybe we'll have to give that a read, but it doesn't ever indicate or anything. It just starts off first scene of this movie. All these recruits are sitting in the barber chair and getting their hair cut, right?
Hmm.
And getting it all shaved off. So it's like you don't know, like, did someone join? Did someone volunteer? You're assuming, like me, that it was the draft, right? I think Modine does a great job in this because he's believable as a young guy going through getting in that situation. And sometimes people say, "What do you mean believable, Steve?" Well, I've been there.
Hmm.
You've been there, right? Getting in there, your first day, you don't know anybody. You sit there and you're like, "Oh man, this is crazy," right?
Yeah.
So he's believable, but as a young, smart guy who's going to get with the program, he's going to figure it out. Just for everybody's information, the drill instructor is the one who gave him the name Joker because the very first interaction, I mean, after the starting credits roll, the first interaction is just the very first introduction to that senior drill instructor, played by Lee Ermey. We'll talk about him, but it just starts right off, and Joker opens his big mouth. That's why he's named. He's like, "Is that you, John Wayne, or is that me, or something?" From and
Right.
he gets punched in the stomach for it, right, by the
Yeah.
drill instructor. But he is in Vision Quest, which is on my one of my top favorite movies of all time. He's the lead on that, so I'm just going to throw that in there. That is on our list to watch. I think probably about 10th episode, and I don't think you've ever seen that, but you're going to love it, man. So yeah, uh, Joker, Matthew Modine, great job, believable. So we're going to talk about. There's only a few people they really even focus on in boot camp. We're going to talk about. Which I'll say the boot camp part of the movie, right? Cowboy Evans. They don't even give you his first name. This is
Mhm.
played by Arliss Howard. I think he played a great good friend that you meet, right?
Yeah.
And I love the reunion when they meet up in Vietnam, when Joker, as the Stars and Stripes reporter, meets up and hooks up with his unit. They haven't seen each other forever, and now it's in war, and they're like different people almost, but they went through that tough thing together. And I just love how he's like, "Hey, he says, you piece of shit," or whatever he says.
Hmm.
That's just that's a great reunion. It reminded me of seeing some guys that I hadn't seen in a while that I went to boot camp with. I mean, you just have that feeling for these people because you went through the thing with them. And at the death scene, when Cowboy ends up getting killed by that
Hmm.
sniper, because he's standing in the wrong place at the wrong time,
Yeah.
man, that is an intense scene. It almost looked like it wasn't even him, the actor, anymore. Like it
Hmm.
was just so surreal, like someone really in the throes of pain and like their life slipping away. I thought he did a great job. What do you think about Cowboy?
Yeah. Cowboy, when I was watching this, especially since I knew we were going to be talking about it, I really focused on the individual characters. And Cowboy, to me, like you said, I think he would be an awesome guy to know in boot camp. In terms of going through, that was 8 weeks. You and I have talked about this before. Marine Corps has the longest boot camp. Now it's 13 weeks long, followed on by additional training. Uh, he was who you generally wanted to be in boot camp. Cowboy was like the gray man. He blended in. He did what he was supposed to. He didn't draw a lot of attention to himself. He would help out, but he was not a screw up. He
Yep.
wasn't the strongest person in boot camp, but he wasn't a screw up. I did notice, and I never paid that much attention before, when they threw the blanket party
Yes.
on Gomer Pyle. And like you said, we'll talk about that. And it's definitely one of those parties you don't want to be invited to, at least if you're the guest of honor. Uh, he was the one that held down Gomer Pyle, and I don't think I'd ever really paid attention to that before,
Yeah.
and it surprised me, given that he was like an understated kind of guy. He was also one of those guys. If you're the squad leader, you wanted people like him on your team. He was not a natural leader, and we see that on in Vietnam. It wasn't that I could have done any better because I'll be the first one to say I was a Marine. I did not see combat, so it's not for me to criticize. I don't know what I would have done in this situation, but he was definitely thrown in over his head
Yeah.
when the original squad leader got taken out in Vietnam.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, yeah, in what he did, there was four guys in that blanket party who held the blanket over top of him, and Cowboy's the one who was at the head of the bunk,
Hmm.
put a towel into Private Pyle's mouth so he couldn't scream. So yeah,
Yeah.
he had a pivotal part in that. So yes, he blends in and he's like the gray man, but he's smart. He knows what's going on, and he's a dependable guy. Everyone's looking to him for that. Was a little bit of a role for him to have there. So, um, all right. So now I'm going to give this next person. I put this person on the list, Snowball Brown,
Hmm.
named aptly by Snowball by because he's an African American guy. This is played by Peter Edmond. The senior drill instructor names him Snowball. Now I just put him in here. I'm going to just real quick, not a huge part. I put him in here as an honorable mention because he takes a lot of senior drill instructor Hartman's racial
Hmm.
slurs. He's like the butt
Yeah.
of all of these. What do you think about Private Snowball?
Uh, I'll tell you, I can say a couple of positive things about Snowball because, like you said, one thing I will say is even though it was a different time, people born today would not be able to relate, especially the way things happen in boot camp. Um, you could tell Hartman liked him, even though because he was a performer too. He was somebody that got things done, did what he was supposed to do. If I had to say one thing about Snowball, I think he epitomized military bearing because that is the one thing that he could have anything said to him. He could be in any situation, and he wasn't losing his game face.
Yep, yep.
So I thought that was awesome.
Like when he says, "Hey, you're fired for being a squad leader." He said, "Disappear, scumbag, sir." Yes, sir. And he
That's
does an
right.
about face and runs back to fixing his bunk. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not a big part at all, but
Mhm.
a good addition to it. So want to talk about the problem child. This is the guy, um, Leonard Lawrence, and he was
Mhm.
named Private Gomer Pyle. Ended up just really being Private Pyle is what they called him by the senior drill instructor because he came in a little bit overweight and he came in disheveled a little bit and he's sort of a knucklehead. That whole first scene where he uh he has to choke himself and he doesn't know what the drill instructor's saying. Great
Mhm.
scene. Everybody's you got to watch the movie just for this scene, right? But this is played by Vincent D'Onofrio
Yep.
and great actor, awesome job, believable to me
Mhm.
as a somewhat slow fat kid. And you know what's so incredible? He's such a good actor that he can change his look so good. This guy is the mechanic from Adventures in Babysitting who was like
Mhm.
built and he looked like Thor, right?
Oh
This is the
yeah.
same guy. So, and he's been in a lot of TV roles. I think he's still got some things going on in TV now. He's been on streaming. He played in the Daredevil. Not really my thing, but my sons watched it, and I remember I was like, "Oh, there's Private Pile." You know,
Hmm.
he's always Private Pile to me in any role I see him in firsthand, because that's really where I was introduced to him. I think he was in Men in Black. He's done a lot of stuff, so um, I think he does a great job playing. Like you just believe he's a knucklehead, right? So, how do you think he did?
Oh, absolutely. He was he was the star of the show in the first half of the movie. He was also, like you mentioned, a lot of good movies. I think he makes anything better that he's in. I also liked him in the remake of what it was at the Magnificent Seven,
Okay,
from originally a Yul Brynner movie. Uh, yeah, this is a guy that, like you said, it took a good actor, especially to be who he is, because naturally, he was a former bouncer, nightclubs. He is 6'3".
yeah,
So he had to pack on 70 pounds of fat to even make this believable. Because if they had brought him in looking the way he did, you're like, yeah, I'm not buying that this guy can't hack it. Like, he could probably break most of these guys in half. So
yeah,
they did a good job of making him just this slow, incompetent person that was just out of his element. Uh, and it took him a long time to get the message. If you watch his character through most of the boot camp scene until that blanket party, he's still got this grin on his face
yeah.
when things are happening, whether that's just the way he deals with stress or whether he's just not getting it. Uh, yeah, he was definitely did not belong there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And it's just crazy the things that the drill sergeant did to him when he was messing up, having his pants down around his ankles and sucking his thumb, and like he plays that all part off like a guy who's just like it's believable when he's falling out of the road march
Hmm.
and Joker's dragging him along and the drill instructor is just screaming at him and like it's just believable that he's that tired and that he can't make it and he's not cut out for this, like everything about it. And you're right, he probably regularly walked around looking like
Hmm.
that figure from Adventures in Babysitting, the big mechanic, just svelte and just like you look, I'm not going to mess with this guy, right?
Right.
So that's crazy, but he does a great job. So that leads us to our the last person really in the boot camp part of the movie that's a major player. Everyone else, other recruits other than we've talked about and other drill instructors, everyone else is just sort of in the background. You don't ever get a focus on anyone. We're
Yeah.
talking about um, the lead drill instructor, Gunnery Sergeant L. Hartman, and this is played by everyone calls him Lee Ermey. It's
Hmm.
is you can find him listed as R. Lee Ermey too. His first name is Ronald, but I just think he likes going by Lee. So give me your take on lead drill instructor, Mike.
You've heard me say this about movies before, that we've talked about. He is the one character I think if you took out of the movie, we might not be talking about it. He just makes this movie when people think about it. And again, we're going to talk about the Vietnam parts too. It was a great movie from end to end. But when people think about this movie, they think about the boot camp scene and or the boot camp half, and they think about him as a drill instructor. I mean, he was a former jarhead, former Marine. He was a former drill instructor. Uh, he was hired as a technical advisor to the movie, but he was just so awesome and was such a natural Marine that he ended up with the role that he was technically advising for. And that, like you said, that's the drill instructor. I was looking, I don't know, then they probably have something like this also in the Army, Steve. I was looking at the hash marks on the sleeve of his alphas, and there were 5 hash marks. Well, every hash mark is 4 years. So I was looking up, like you said, this is like mid to late 60s. He was in for at least 20 years at this point. So
Yep.
I was calculating back. He probably saw action, maybe something toward the end of World War II, definitely Korean conflict. The Marines were there, so he wasn't playing the role in terms of the character. That was who he was, and it would have been interesting for them to have like a kind of him off script, kind of talking to another drill instructor in another room, and to see him just kind of smoking and joking and out of that character.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is my favorite character. And it's funny for people who have not been in the military. And I know we've been out for a while. I got out in 92. I went in 88. So yeah, it's time passed, but there's people I'm sure who watch this movie, Mike, and they're thinking, this is over the top. This is ridiculous. And
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is as real as it gets.
Yep.
This is as real as it gets here, because like you said, he was in the Marines. He was a drill instructor. He was a drill instructor in the era of training people to deploy to the Vietnam after being drafted. Now, I got to tell you the story I read. I read a story where he was interviewed, like
Mhm.
something online, or it was an excerpt from the book, a book he wrote or something. He was hired, like you said, as technical director. He had parts in Apocalypse Now.
Mhm.
A helicopter pilot in that. He had a part in Boys and Company C, which was a little bit earlier than this. Um, so he's an actor out there with his military background and getting some roles here and there. But someone knows him and says, hey, this guy was actually a drill instructor. Let's get him to be the technical advisor. So Stanley Kubrick, I'm reading this story, and this is like really right out of the interview with Lee Ermey. He,
Mhm.
sa- he says, he says, listen, Kubrick is like a stickler for everybody in who's going to be in his movies. And he would have his assistants videotape the guys who were going to be like in the background, like the guys who were in the platoon that weren't the main characters we just talked about. He
Yeah.
he would have them videotape, stand in formation, and like wanted someone to yell at him and go down the line and get in their face, and he wanted it videotaped. And every night after they would do these videotapes, Kubrick would watch the videotapes, and sometimes he'd be like, "That guy there, I don't want him.
Mhm.
He doesn't look the part. I don't want him in here." Um,
Yeah.
and and so Lee understands that Kubrick looks at this, and he knows the guy. He's seen the guy they cast for the drill instructor, and he says,
Mhm.
I think I can do better for sure. And he knows because the guy who's going to play the drill instructor is not doing this. They
Yeah.
say, hey, you're the technical guy. We want you to go yell at these guys for a minute and put them in formation so
Mhm.
Kubrick can see how they look and how they react, and if he wants them really in the movie. And he's like, there's my shot, because he wanted this part. And he went and he put full on and
Mhm.
totally tore it up. And he knew he said he had guys like he was like suck your thumb and doing all this stuff and
Mhm.
doing put he was and he said actually um before he did it, he told him, he said, listen, I'm sorry right now, just take it, roll with it, because I'm going to
Mhm.
go after your mama. I'm going to do everything. um and it's just acting, right? And so these guys are like, and apparently it's such a good thing. Kubrick's assistant, who he said was a really close to him, almost like a son to him, comes back and says, you got to see this videotape, gives it to Kubrick. Ermy goes back there and is off for the night. In the morning, he gets, someone comes to him on the set, is like, hey, you need to go see the director. And he
Mhm.
was like, oh, okay. And he walks in and he said Kubrick had a big smile on his face and said, you knew what you were doing last night, didn't you? And
Mhm.
he just said, he smiled, he said, you're the part, you're the part. He gave it to him. So he wanted it, he planned it, he said he wasn't going to let it go. And that way, and so he had this little plan to do that, to really go after it, and it worked. So it was a
Absolutely.
great story. So, but yeah, for anyone who's thinking, this guy's over the top, that's as real as it gets. It's absolutely authentic, absolutely authentic. So,
And
um,
did we mention, I don't know if we mentioned or not, Ermy as a Marine did 3 tours in Vietnam.
yeah, yeah, no, I didn't know. I know he was there in that era, and I know
Yeah.
he did. So he probably was just out in the field and then brought back, and then they were like,
Mhm.
hey, you need to train people, and you've got the knowledge, you've been there. So
Yeah.
yeah, awesome role, my favorite character. And by far, you're right, movie probably doesn't, we don't even have it on our list if he's
Yeah.
not in it, right? So all right, then we move to Vietnam. We've got some characters. We've got PFC Rafterman. This is played by Kevin Major Howard. That's his middle name is Major, but whatever. So I haven't seen him in a lot, but he is a combat photographer who's assigned to Stars and Stripes, and he's a private first class. So, and the
Mhm.
reason this gets back, I want to say why I think this was about 1966 when the movie starts. sometime in 1966 um, because once they get into Vietnam and they have the Tet Offensive, which is 1968.
Hmm.
Joker's a sergeant by that time. So I'm thinking maybe a year and a half in combat situation, he gets his Sarge E5. And so that's why I'm thinking, because the Tet was in 68. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking that movie started at about sometime in 66. So
Hmm.
Rafterman actually played a pretty big role. How do you think he did?
I think he was good. Like you said, he wasn't a major player, but he was a big part of the second half. Um, in terms of character, to me, he was kind of, I like the way the movie gave you a bunch of characters that were all bringing a different perspective. You got Joker, who's more of like the civilian kind of thrust in a fish out of water kind of thing, where he's taking it as a joke initially, and then reality slaps him in the face. With Rafterman, he was kind of the gung ho, all in. He wanted to be part of the action instead of being in the rear with the gear. And he talked about that toward the beginning of when they got to Vietnam, and he got what he wanted. And when the shots started, it wasn't like he was drifting in the background too. He was ready for it. So
Yeah.
that was kind of his mindset is, hey, I'm here to do what my country wants me to do, and I want to be a bigger part of it.
Yeah, yeah. He was like he wanted some trigger time. He wanted to get out in the field, right? And you got the feeling from the discussions that Joker, as in his reporter role, had been out in the field on a couple of operations. Real
Mhm.
funny scene, by the way, with Rafterman and Joker and some of their other fellow reporters. Right before the Tet Offensive kicks off, when they're telling jokes, there's some really bad sort of raunchy
Mhm.
jokes they're telling. Really funny stuff, exactly what you would hear in the barracks or out in the field. 100%. So yeah, I think he played. I say he has a big role because it's not big, like you're right, but he's the
Mhm.
one who saves Joker at the end when Joker's weapon jams. So he was there, he was in it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Joker really takes it as his responsibility to protect this new guy. He's like, this guy's under me. He's a PFC. He's a photographer. He keeps getting put with me, and he's trying to keep him out of the field, right? But Rafterman just wants in. So
Mhm.
that leads us to again, several people are introduced to us in the Vietnam part, but this is a guy on when he hooks up with Cowboy. Cowboy's the only one from the boot camp scene that is also in Vietnam with Joker, Cowboy and
Mhm.
Joker, right? So that when they hook up with the with Cowboy's platoon or his squad, like, man, this guy, his name, the character's name is Animal Mother. He's played by Adam Baldwin, who,
Yeah.
this guy, man, he plays a great hard ass. I don't know, Joker's just being a little bit funny, and this guy's
Mhm.
sort of taking offense that he's like, oh, you're a Marine, like you're a reporter for Stars and Stripes. And he's like, he gets in his face and he's pushing, can you walk the, you talk to talk, but can you walk the walk? And like, it's almost like they're getting ready to fight for a minute, and
Oh yeah.
Cowboy and Eight Ball have to sort of like split them up. Now this guy, he's been in a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Offhand, the one thing I can think of that sticks out to me is he was in Independence Day.
Hmm.
And he was like the guy who shot the first alien through the glass when the alien was trying to like choke the president out or whatever.
Oh,
But
okay.
but he plays a decent role in there, and he's been in other things along the way. But I can't just really pull what it is. But I think he plays a great hard ass, and he sort of doesn't care. He's like I'm just here to live better, you than me. If someone gets hurt, he's just a very sort of, you know, sort of dreary outlook on life, so to speak. How did you like Animal Mother?
Yeah, I probably picked him as my favorite character for the second half, just
Okay.
because I thought he was probably the most interesting, the most straight up. Uh, and I totally agree with you. When Joker and him got in each other's face, I think if it would have been real life versus a movie, and I think they probably talked about this, how should this go? Because I think in real life, in that scenario, the kind of guy that Animal Mother was, I think it would have jumped off, and they would have had to drag him off because I don't think he would have taken to Joker's joking around after he had seen as much as he had. Uh, I think it was perfect casting in terms of making Adam Baldwin Animal Mother because, like we've talked about, Gomer Pyle and Joker were both 6'3".
Yeah.
So, and sometimes you forget how tall Modine is.
Yeah.
So if you've got to get somebody to be intimidating to him, you're gonna have to get Baldwin, who's 6'4" and probably outweighed him by 50 pounds. Uh, the two previous roles, and these may ring a bell when I bring them up. I love both of these movies. They both came before Full Metal Jacket. The first role I can ever remember him in was My Bodyguard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he was fantastic in
And
that.
we're not talking about the one that people are thinking, people who are a little younger than us right now are thinking about Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
That's not the Bodyguard movie. That's
Yeah, and
it's
and thank you for clarifying, because just like you and I talk about a movie called Bad Boys,
yeah,
and we're not talking about Martin Lawrence
no,
and Will Smith. So he was in that, and another great movie. I was a teenager. My buddies and I were in the theater. DC Cab.
oh
Uh,
wow,
Oh yeah, all-star cast, and he was sort of that fish out of water that came to DC and started working for the cab company. So I thought he was perfect for the role. He was interesting to watch, and honestly, given his potential, I think if anything, he played it in an understated way.
yeah. I mean, he did great,
Yeah,
and I love at the friend when he's like, after Cowboy gets shot by that sniper because he's standing in the wrong place. There's like a hole through the building, and they're trying to deal with this. And I love him. He's like, "You ready for some payback?" Because he's like,
hmm
"We're gonna get this person." So he still loves his people that are with him, and he wants people to pay if you hurt his people. Number one. The second great thing that he says too is right when at the end when it's like, "Hey, listen," he said, "You're fresh out of Friends. Cowboy's dead.
hmm
Like you better watch your ass." He's like, "So if you want to shoot this person, shoot him, because otherwise they're leaving for the mother loving rats." Right? That's what the squad is saying. Like, screw this lady. Because the sniper was a female. That's another thing. So
Yeah.
so yeah, he played a great part. He played
You
a
you
great part.
bring you bring up a great point there, because and it reminded me of A Few Good Men when Colonel Jessup said, "Who's going to do it? You, Lieutenant Caffey?" Because
Mm,
it's basically like, hey, it's easy to have all these ethics and morals, and you want to tell everybody else, well, we can't just leave it here. It's like, no, this is you. So it's time for you to step up and do something and put your money where your mouth is. So you're absolutely right. I love that line.
yeah, it's great. You're fresh out of Friends. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm I'm looking for a place in my life to use that in real life, Mike. I just can't wait. I've had it in my back pocket for some years now, and I haven't run into a situation. So I want to talk about Eight Ball,
Yeah.
um, played by Dorian Harewood. Now, this guy, I remember him in a TV role where he was like a FBI agent. He was not the
hmm
lead agent in the role, but I've seen him before, not a lot. But I had small part. He's the one who breaks up Animal Mother and Joker
hmm
when they meet. But he sort of starts off the end of the movie because he's the one that is the first one hit, and he ends up taking like three shots by the sniper, is just hurting on the ground, and then ends up getting stitched up the side, right?
Yeah.
Um, so um, so I think he had a good part.
hmm
It was very small. Had you seen him before in anything?
I had, and I was wondering if you were going to remember that. I remember the TV show you're talking about too. It was with Robert Stack. It was
Yeah.
early '80s, and it was Strike Force.
Oh, is that what it
Uh,
was called?
yeah,
I knew him. That's
and
crazy.
and I barely remember it because I think I was 10 or 11 when it came out.
Yeah.
But I remember I used to watch it. I liked it. Couldn't tell you one episode about
No.
what it was about. One thing I think you'll agree about Eight Ball, and it's funny. If we didn't love our listeners so much and want to be so inclusive, we could give you a bunch of great lines that Eight
Yeah.
Ball had. He had
Yes.
some of the best line in the movie, but not suitable for this platform. We'll probably get
Absolutely.
deplatformed if we
No.
say any of them.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Right. And that leads us just to Doc J, even another smaller part. This is
hmm
the corpsman,
Yeah.
who's attached to the squad, and very small part. But he's the one who went to get. He's like, I can't leave him laying out there. He's been shot three times. I'm going to get him. So he
Yeah.
goes to get him, and then he's trying to drag Eight Ball while he's
hmm
still alive. Eight Ball gets stitched up. Doc gets shot, And but then when Animal Mother comes up behind the building, he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Doc, where's the sniper?"
Hmm.
And Doc points out, and that's when he's like, "Yep, it's not another unit, it's just a sniper." I
Yeah.
think he said it's all good, right? So we're going to be able to get some payback here. So I thought he did it good. There's a lot of other small guys in the we could talk about in the squad, but I gave 8 Ball and Doc J a specific call out because they took it
Yeah.
from the sniper, man. So
Hmm.
had to include them there. Have you seen him in
Sure.
anything else?
Nothing I can remember. But I agree with you. I can't say a lot about the character, the role, but it was so key in the scene. And just you're probably like me. I'm like, man, can you imagine having to make decisions in that scenario? Like you want to save everybody else. You got two buddies out there on the field, and you're like that takes the ability to just take yourself outside of the situation and look at it objectively. And I don't know, man, that would be tough.
Yeah, it would. And that's one of the things that, like, even though he totally, when Cowboy's in charge of the platoon because their squad leader is killed during the maneuvers when but he picks up like something that's booby trapped, like a stuffed animal or something. He
Yeah.
gets killed. That guy was an interesting character too, but just too small of a part for me to really list him. We don't want to be here all day, but um, that then Cowboys in charge, and Cowboys like, nope, we're waiting for a tank or we're gonna move out. And Animal
Hmm.
Mother give big props for him. He's like, "F you, I'm going to get him," and he just runs. And
Right.
and he's just going to go get his buddies, even though he's this guy doesn't care about anyone. He's all dark, but he's the
Yeah.
type of guy you want on your side in a fight, right?
Yeah. He was a true leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and by the way, so 8 Ball was Dorian Harewood. I said that Doc J, just for people's information, is played by John Stafford. I did not
Hmm.
look up to see anything else he was in, but a good role, and good on him for pointing out the sniper, even all the pain he had to be in, right? So, what's
Yeah.
your favorite part or scene of this movie? Um,
Okay. I've got a couple of comments.
okay.
I think the easy one, and I can't help it, it's low hanging fruit, but my overall favorite is everybody's favorite. It's the first scene in the squad bay where Gunny Hartman walking up and down while the platoon's standing there at attention. Uh, it's not for the faint of heart or the easily offended. And like you said, anybody that hasn't been in the military or has no interest or has not known anybody in the military will look at this and say, "Oh, they're just playing it up. Like that doesn't really happen to people, does it?" And yeah, that's exactly what happens. So that. But if I didn't go with that, other than that, the jelly donut scene, where Pyle has an unlocked footlocker, and he's like, "Can you have jelly donuts outside the chow hall?" And he's like, no, drill instructor." And it's like, "Why not?" And he's like, "Because I'm heavy, sir." And he's like, "No, because you are a disgusting fat body." I think that is a fantastic scene. Uh, and I was researching for the movie, and apparently that scene, I could get this number off. It took like 40 takes. It's a
Wow.
simple scene. It's not pivotal, but it's one that everybody remembers.
I think I would disagree that it's not pivotal. I think it is because at that point he's like, they're paying for it, you eat it. And he said
Yeah,
that's sort of when he told them, hey, I'm not punishing this guy anymore. This guy's a
yeah,
dumbass. He's not getting with the program. I'm punishing the rest of you. And this
yeah,
is where he puts that thought in their head. You need to fix this guy.
yeah.
And that first scene, and then they show throughout, they're all doing like burpees or this, they're
Hmm.
doing all these exercises because he keeps messing up and he's just able to chill. And
Well,
I think that scene is the start of the what leads to the blanket party.
yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, and I like when Gunny Hartman said, "I have failed him because you have failed me," and the Marine Corps, and I'm sure the Army too, but the Marine Corps definitely emphasizes leadership at all levels. Doesn't matter what you are, what you're doing, in all roles, and even if you're out doing some kind of work detail and you're working with two other privates and you're a private, if somebody comes up and asks a question, one of you's in charge and one of you already knows you're in charge.
Yeah,
And you, and
yeah,
you figure that out before you need to.
that's right. That's right. So Well said. So yeah, I sort of took the easy route from you. You like the first scene. You mentioned two things. I'm going to say my favorite part of this movie is the entire boot camp part of the movie, the
Hmm.
entire first 45 minutes, because it
Yeah.
brings back so many memories and nostalgia, right? Looking back, it's so funny about like you look back and there's so many things you can laugh about your
Hmm.
basic training experience, things that happened, so many memories you have and close relationships you built. But
Yeah.
it's like people are like, oh, if it was so good, why don't you go do it again? Like, and you're like, hell no, right? It's
Uh-huh.
just, it's one of those things. It's the dichotomy, right? So, um, in Joker's words, the duality of man, right? Well,
Yeah.
that's for another scene, but I love that whole first part. I could they could have rolled credits, and I would have
Hmm.
walked out of there and said that was a great movie.
Yeah.
They could have at the time. I wouldn't even
Hmm.
have recognized that it was only 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the least favorite part or stupidest scene. We always do this, and I've got a big one
Hmm.
here, and there's a story behind this. So the helicopter door gunner scene when they're on the way to Fubai with
Yeah.
Rafterman and Joker, and Rafterman does a great job. If they're actually in a helicopter,
Hmm.
he gets very airsick. If he's not in a helicopter and he's supposed to pretend that he's getting airsick, he's a great actor because he
Yeah.
looks like he's about to blow chunks like the
Uh-huh.
whole way through, right? And I thought just this door gunner is just it's unrealistic depiction of these are war crimes. They're making it seem sort of funny. He's
Hmm.
shooting random civilians, and it's a scene. This is played by Tim Colcheri, um,
Yeah.
and he was the one originally slated to play the senior drill instructor.
Hmm.
Um, and Kubrick, once he kicked him out, he was like, well, let's give him a part. I don't know if this part was already in the movie. There's a scene already set for this, but
Yeah.
Kubrick, from reading I did, said gave him this part as a consolation because the guy took the job and came and was prepping for the movie. And he was like, yeah, you're not in it. We're going to use Lee. Right. So
Hmm.
um, I think the scene's a thumbs down for me, because even the joke that he makes, we're talking about something that would be a war crime, and hey, listen, like an officer who is the pilot, the warrant
Hmm.
officer, or whoever's in charge of that aircraft would not let that happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't care about you know
Hmm.
anything. I feel like I don't want to have to suspend disbelief on this that part because I just don't think it's good. So big thumbs down for me that whole helicopter door gunner scene.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So kind of like you with the favorite scene, I went a little bit different with this because I like the movie so much, and it was really hard. I was trying to pick out a scene. I'm like, I don't really have a scene, so I just started getting really picky. And I'm
Yeah,
not even saying it's fair, but there was the scene where the Fulberg Colonel is asking Joker why he has the peace symbol, why he has the Born to Kill on his helmet. First of all, he wouldn't ever left him being able to do that. He'd be like, all right, take that off, get rid of that, at least the peace symbol. He'd have had no problem with what was on his helmet. But the other thing that took me out of that scene is you'll notice at the end of the scene, he salutes Joker first. A
yeah,
Fulberg Colonel is not saluting someone, especially somebody that's just irritated and pissed him off first. It's always the junior that salutes first. And there was one other thing, and again, I hesitantly point this out because I wasn't in back then. I certainly wasn't in a place like Vietnam, but I noticed there was no muzzle discipline at all. And I'm not talking about during combat because things can happen during combat that ordinarily wouldn't happen.
on the
Fog of
range,
war,
on the range.
everything.
I picked that up too. On
Uh,
the range, right?
on the range
And that
in
that
Vietnam,
yeah,
there were so many muzzles just going right past people's head,
yeah,
and that's when nothing was even happening. So
yeah,
I'm surprised, and maybe I don't know, maybe R. Lee Ermey said, "Hey, look, back then it was a different time. We didn't have this focus on safety the way we do now." Fight like you train kind of thing. So I just picked those out.
yeah,
Again, it's nitpicking. It's not
yeah.
really a least favorite scene, but it was things that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
I hear you though on this is another angle. Maybe, and I agree with you. I noticed the range, specifically on the range, especially. Um, but maybe it was because Lee, who's the technical advisor,
Mhm.
was suddenly in the role and he was focused on that. And
Yeah.
so he wasn't paying attention to like, hey, those guys, because they had a drill instructor in the back when they were all sitting talking. like pointing the weapon actually the wrong way. It wasn't pointed downrange even, like, and I'm like, okay, that's bad. But
Yeah.
all right, I hear you. I
Hmm.
hear you. So additional comments on this movie? What else do you have to say about it?
I got a handful of things. First of all, I did want to note, Steve, and I know I have maybe sometimes more eclectic musical taste.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to call it.
Okay.
There was a soundbite from the very first scene in Vietnam, which some listeners may be familiar with. Part of the movie where the Vietnamese prostitute was saying, me love you long time and me so horny. Well, that resulted in one of the most high quality raps of the 1980s, and that would be 1999, 89's Me So Horny by the Two Live Crew. So I did have to give that a plug.
Okay.
Um, Although the movie was gritty, already a scene where the Marine, they had to cut out a scene. They were going to have a severed head with Marines playing soccer with it. They said, you know what, that may be a bit too far. They took that out of there. Um, and the other thing I would add, and you can let me know if you have this experience too. You had the Gomer pile in boot
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah.
We also had a guy in boot camp. And did we all take a ration of shit at some point or another? Yeah, that's part of the game. But they definitely singled out one guy in my platoon. Hey, thankfully it wasn't me. But they rode this guy from beginning to end. He showed up. I won't give his name in case he's listening, or somebody he knows is listening, but he showed up to boot camp, long hair, Harley shirt, not sleeve tats, but quite a bit. And it's sort of like they just like, hey, we're going to make this guy an example. So I don't know if you had that experience, if everybody has that experience, but I just
Yeah.
want to throw that in there.
Yeah. There was a few different people that were sort of e- not very neat and tidy and or overweight that were picked on, right?
Yeah.
Especially. So yeah, I hear you. They do have their people, depending, but in many cases you're looking, you're like, hey, better than me, right? That
Yeah.
gets the focus off of me. So my thoughts on this movie, I'm going to say this again. I feel like if someone hasn't been in the military, they probably watch this and think the training
Mhm.
part is way over the top and embellished. And it is not. And I'm going to say this, at least in the 80s,
Yeah.
it wasn't. I went in the Army basic training, and that's what you do. They call it one station unit training. So if you're going to the infantry, you have 8 weeks of boot camp
Hmm.
followed immediately. You're in the same building, the same bunk, the same guys immediately by 5 weeks of infantry school. So it
Yeah.
just keeps going. So it's 13 weeks, right?
Hmm.
Um, which is like the Marines, right?
Yeah.
But they just don't separate it and say it's a different part, right? So at least in the 80s. Now there was no
Hmm.
actual hitting, like
Hmm.
like or choking when Joker or Pyle had to choke himself on Hartman's hand. I didn't see that.
Hmm.
I didn't see any stomach punches in the 80s. I believe that it happened in the past. My
Hmm.
father was in the Air Force in like the 50s. And so therefore I know that there was some, even in the Air Force back then, if someone got out of line, they could smack them around. But
Yeah.
like I've got a few stories here just for people to say, hey, listen, this is not over embellished. There's a
Hmm.
guy who left his wall locker unlocked, sort of like the foot locker that in that scene that you're talking about.
Hmm.
And we had a single barrack and the with one platoon in a barracks, and they had windows, and outside there was no grass growing. It was like mud, basically dirt and mud. If it was raining, it was mud. If it was just dusty if it was not raining. And
Yeah.
this drill sergeant took out the guys. Well, let's just see if anything's missing. I don't know if it's like, and he threw it out the window, the whole
uh,
drawer. So that's a thing that happens. Some people are like,
yeah.
really, that's a real thing. There was another drill instructor, um, who in my platoon, if you said something stupid, he would say, go get me a rock.
Hmm.
And you had to go find a rock and give it to him, and then he would throw it hard into your thigh or your calf.
Hmm.
So that was hitting but not hitting.
Right.
Like if someone like, hey, who left this, whose weapon is this leaning against a tree? You can't leave that unsecured. And then
Hmm.
oh, so the guy'd come over, that's my drill sergeant, and be like, go get me a rock. Then like, you knew you would, so you had to depend. I don't want to get if you get a really small rock, he's going to pick up his own.
Right.
But so if you get a really big rock, you don't want to do that, right? So you
Yeah.
had to you're calculating what size should I get because he's going to hit me in the leg with this thing at like from 6 feet away probably. So it was interesting. So
Hmm.
there was that. We had one guy. I'm not going to use any names here either. Who he was on the Fat Boy program, so he came
Hmm.
in heavy, and he snuck out of our barracks when Fire Guard wasn't looking and went up across the street. There was parts of the base that weren't training parts across the street, and he went to a candy machine and was getting candy out of a vending machine. And
Hmm.
someone who worked over on that side of the street saw him, and they're like, they knew this was a recruit
Yeah.
because the way he was dressed and because of his haircut, and it's the middle of the night. And so they called the company command watch office, and drill sergeants woke us up in the middle of the night, and everyone had to get up and get on all their gear, helmets,
Hmm.
everything, and go draw a weapon from the arms room. They woke up the armor, and
Yeah.
and then we had to go stand guard as a platoon around the candy machine.
Hmm.
And this guy was like, you go to bed and eat that candy bar as we're
Yeah.
all filing out. So that's like the same sort of thing, right? We're punishing
Hmm.
everybody for you. And then there's one more story just to let people know, because I think people need to know, like, hey, this is real stuff. There was a thief
Hmm.
identified. Someone was missing money. Another guy was missing money, and then someone saw this guy in someone's wall locker, and he was taking money,
Hmm.
and everyone circled around him. This was like on a Sunday, and we had a little bit of free time, and people were. He was about to get whooped, and
Hmm.
then he tried to run, and he was so scared he guys were coming in on him, and he was basically going to get a blanket party because he's stealing from
Hmm.
his own guys.
Oh
He
yeah.
he turns around and runs right
Hmm.
into a pole and broke his nose. There's poles in these barracks because he
Yeah.
just wasn't thinking where he was. He was just trying to. He was like, "I'm good. This is bad." And then so
Uh-huh.
so he had to go. They had to take him to the medic or whatever.
Right.
And so you know, there's stories like that. Everyone was gonna. It was gonna be a blanket party. So
Hmm.
that's just my comments for those people who would look at this and say, it ain't like that. Now, I don't know. I haven't been in basic training in the year 2025. I don't know
Right.
what it's like these days, but I'm going
Hmm.
to tell you what, it's not overblown. Um, so okay, we're going to talk about this. You did pretty good on this last time,
Hmm.
last episode there with we did Mr. Mom, right? The
Yeah.
message. What's the lesson? What's the moral of the story? I'll start here.
All right.
I think I got a couple things, Mike. Not everything is for everyone. Talking about like your private pile,
Hmm.
and people have limits to what they can take, right? Private Pile, because he was the focus of that energy. Some people he snapped, right? He snapped. He killed himself. He killed the drill instructor.
Yeah.
By the way, it would have been extremely hard. They, at least in the army, I know that
Hmm.
they control live ammunition so much that
Yeah.
it would have been extremely hard for him to get those rounds. But whatever.
And you wonder if that's a product of that time
Yeah, you
that they
could
have that
be.
tight control.
Yeah, could be. And another thing I'm thinking, not everything's for everyone. People do have limits and can only take so much. And the world, I think, was a harder place back then because it
Hmm.
was okay. People didn't go into basic training and they didn't call their congressman and say, "Oh my God, they're yelling at us," right?
Yeah.
People knew you're going in there. It's going to be like that, right?
Hmm.
And you just need to deal with it, figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And deal with it. So, I think another lesson. I feel like and no disrespect to anyone, but the war itself, pointless thing after
Hmm.
pointless thing happened to the point where, and then again, we end up pulling out. It becomes, North Vietnam takes over. They take Saigon. All this. We don't. I'm not getting political, but the bottom line is,
Hmm.
all this ended up being for nothing. As much as people, and that just really goes to show, people when they're in the military, they're in there. They're like fighting. They're like, hey, I'm fighting for my brother. I'm fighting
Hmm.
for my sister, whoever I'm in here with, because we're like a family and we're going to take care of each other. Like
Yeah.
the whole point of the whole conflict isn't always something that's on the soldier's mind as much as coming home alive and taking care of your friends, right?
Hmm.
So interesting thing though, right and wrong. This is my big moral here, Mike. Right and
Yeah.
wrong, it depends on perspective, right?
Hmm.
Because think of this: Joker is like, they show this guy who's killing the stupid door gunner scene, and so they're already like life is so cheap in that respect. But when we get to the end, Joker's like, we can't leave the person
Hmm.
like this because it's
Yeah.
the wrong thing to do.
Hmm.
But then they're like, okay, well, you're fresh out of friends, buddy. If you want to handle it,
Right.
right? And then he shoots the person. He basic
Hmm.
so here's the thing. He's like, I'm trying to do the right thing. His in his mind in this last scene, doing the right thing is committing a war crime,
Yeah.
shooting a person, a defenseless, wounded person right in the face.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like then he was talking about the Jungian duality of man. Like he's what's right, what's wrong. It's the perspective. So in his most people like you're going to prison for that if someone reports you, right? But the
Yeah.
bottom line is he's like I was doing the right thing, not leaving this person to suffer.
Hmm.
So the right and wrong just got all blurred up in that one scene there. It's not such an easy argument anymore, right? So
Right.
that's sort of the discussion I have for that. Right and wrong depend on perspective and
Sure.
the situation. What messages or moral or whatever did you pull out of this?
Well, the first one I think we both agree on. It's war sucks. Period. It's not a nice, clean, just heroic journey where you just go through it unscathed, and then everybody just throws medals on your chest. And I think we've learned that over the years, especially as things have become more publicized. So largely. I was like, and I think Vietnam showed us this in terms of now that we have perspective. Uh, there are always at least three wars going on. And this didn't start with Vietnam, but I think because it was so televised that we can look, there are three wars. There's the war the people of each country believes they're fighting. And that can be a product of propaganda, the ability of the power of the media to shape public opinion. Uh, we're all at the mercy of not only how much information we've got, but if that information is even accurate. So that's one war. The second war is the war we're actually fighting. Like, okay, why are we actually doing this? What's our end game? What do we hope to gain from this? And then there's the war that really matters to people like you and me, and that's the war on the ground, where neither of the other two wars really matter. It doesn't even matter what you're fighting about when you're there on the ground. You're just there with your buddies, and you're just trying to make it home in one piece all together and
Yeah,
look out for each other.
Roger that, man. Roger that. Well said. Very cool. Cool. We got some good messages out of that one, man. So, whew, wow. What's your overall take on this movie, Mike? We're about to get ready to make some recommendations here, but what's your overall take? I think I already know what you're going to say here.
Oh yeah, I think it's incredible. I think you'd mentioned Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes nailed it, or IMDb. It's an incredible movie, uh, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to have the same experience watching it.
All right, all right. Yeah, I loved it for the basic training part, the nostalgia of it, bringing back
Hmm.
memories, and for the messages like we just talked about. And just it's an action movie. I'm a guy, I like action movies and stuff. By the way, got to throw this in here.
Yeah.
Overall take a squad of guys. At least when I was in, we went when we deployed to Iraq.
Hmm.
I was in the infantry, and we are carrying around just basically in magazines 210 rounds, 730
Hmm.
round magazines. Now, the amount of rounds they put down range, blowing those buildings up when they weren't sure if it was just one sniper or not,
Yeah.
that would have like been a whole company's worth of rounds.
Right.
So way unrealistic that part as far as the discipline with ammo.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say so. Um,
Yeah. You were thinking ammo conservation in
yeah,
reality.
yeah. I was like, wow, this is like they're just wasting it now. And then they're shooting a Laws rocket, they're shooting 40 millimeter
Yeah.
grenades downrange, everything, right? It was
Hmm.
fun to watch, but that part's unrealistic. So
Yeah.
so that's just had to say that, throw that in. So what do you say? We're gonna say watch it or trash it. I'm gonna say definitely if you haven't seen this movie, watch it. And if you've seen it, but you haven't seen it in a while, definitely watch it again. Every time you watch it, you'll pick up on something else. What do you got? Watch it or
Yeah.
trash it, Mike.
Yeah, I agree. Watch it. But for those that you just got to know what you're getting into. If you have never seen this movie, it is not the feel good movie that's gonna have you feeling better about life when it's over. You may want to have a couple of comedies or a day out with a family after that, just to get back in the right frame of mind.
All right, all right. I hear you. Take that. So what's your rating? What do you got rating on it? You know, we
Uh,
got bathroom break, no snacks, a Coke and popcorn. The best one, Coke, popcorn, and a box of whatever your candy is. What do you got?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Coke, popcorn, box of goobers. It's one of those movies that's going to stand the test of time. I mean, there's a lot of movies we talk about we're nostalgic for, we like, but they'll fall by the wayside. They'll be little hidden gems. This movie has so much going for it and so much to say, and just an entertaining way to say it that it's like we said. I had a hard time finding something I didn't like about it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So I'm the same. I'm with you. Coke, popcorn, and a box of Raisinets. That's the first time that I've given it all. And
Hmm.
you too, maybe, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's both of us. But so that's the number one rating, people. Come on now. You got to do
Yeah.
it. So I think we got there, Mike. I'm gonna tell everyone thanks for listening. I think we wrapped this movie good. Thanks for listening to Gonzo, Mike, and a VCR. If you enjoyed this, please follow us or subscribe, depending on how you're listening. We'd really appreciate it. Now, if you have a movie you'd like us to watch, or just have a comment, or even want to donate to the Gonzo Mike Party Fund, shoot us an email. The email is gonzomikevcr@gmail.com. That's GONZOMIKE VCR@gmail.com. I'm going to be checking that for you once a day, Michael. And so in our next episode, it's a Mike pick, one from all the way back in 1980. Tell him what it is, Mike.
Well, Gonzo, you know that one of my favorite things to do with our podcast is to have you watching movies that you ordinarily in no way in hell would ever look at. So next time we're going to be doing a 180, heading back in the other direction. We're going to be watching 9 to 5.
9 to 5, and that's with Dolly Parton, right? And she does
Yep.
the music for that.
Hmm.
So very good. All right, we're going to do it. I'll sit through it for you, Mike, and see what feedback I have for you.
Awesome.
Um, so folks, that's a wrap for today. I'm Gonzo.
I'm Mike.
Until next time, keep watching movies. Gonzo, Mike, and VCR is produced by Gonzo and Mike. All rights reserved.